days when you could walk into a theatre and you know you were in for a gut-bursting, laugh out loud, laugh until you cry comedy. The 90s, the early 2000s were filled with these iconic comedies that shaped a generation. From absurd slapstick to raunchy teen hijinks, these films not only made us laugh but became cultural touchstones. But here's the question. Why aren't comedies like this being made anymore? Today we're going to look at what happened to these types of films, the cultural impact they had, why comedies today don't hit the same, and why we desperately need to return to that golden era of funny. The 90s and early 2000s brought us some of the most unforgettable comedies in cinematic history. Jim Carrey was at the height of his powers with films like Dumber and Dumber and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Adam Sandler became a household name with Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, and The Waterboy. Other films like American Pie, The Hangover, these films weren't just popular, they defined a generation's sense of humour. And then, of course, there came the turn of the millennium, which brought us a whole new fresh wave of comedy. The early 2000s, of course, gave us Zoolander, Anchorman, The Wedding Crashers, The 40-Year-Old Virgin. These films were raunchy, they were silly and unapologetically hilarious, whether it was Ben Stiller's iconic blue steel pose.
And then there's Ferrari and the Tigra. The Tigra's a lot softer. It's a little bit more of a catalog look. I use it for footwear sometimes.
Can I see that?
Or Will Ferrell streaking through the quad. They delivered memorable moments that people still quote today. These comedies worked because they didn't take themselves too seriously. They were irreverent, absurd, and not afraid to push boundaries. Physical comedy, memorable one-liners, and exaggerated characters were key ingredients. These filmmakers, the Farley brothers and Formula, took everyday scenarios and inject them with absurdity. They created characters who were lovable but flawed, placing them in ridiculous situations that escalated to hilarious extremes. You see, part of the charm of these films was their willingness to take risks. Whether it was the over-the-top gross-out humour of American Pie or the nonsensical antics of Anchorman, they weren't concerned with playing it safe, and the humour was diverse, ranging from physical slapstick to witty dialogue. There was something for everyone. So, why aren't we seeing these movies anymore? One of the reasons is the film industry has shifted dramatically. Comedies used to dominate the box office, but now tentpole franchises, superhero films, action blockbusters, and high-budget sequels take up most of the cinematic real estate. Studios are more inclined to invest in films that guarantee returns, and with comedies being much riskier and more harder to market globally today, they are taking a backseat. Another reason, of course, is the changing landscape in humour itself. The style of comedy that thrived in the 90s and early 2000s, often raunchy, politically incorrect, and sometimes offensive, doesn't align as easily as today's cultural sensitivities. Comedy has become more of a delicate balancing act, and filmmakers might be wary of the backlash that certain types of humour can provoke. Movies like Tropic Thunder or Superbad, which played fast and loose with political correctness, might struggle to get made today in the same way, especially Tropic Thunder. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. playing an Australian who was playing dress up as a black man. You cannot make that today in 2025. If you made that film today, I guarantee, well, that wouldn't even be made. That wouldn't even get past the executives in the studio. These comedies didn't just entertain, they shaped pop culture. They were quote machines, from Dumber and Dumber's.
You mean not good like 1 out of 100?
I'd say more like 1 out of 1,000,000.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
These films became embedded in our cultural lexicon. Friends quoted them at school, colleagues recited them at work, and entire social gatherings were built around watching these films together. They also tackled relatable everyday themes and awkward dating experiences, embracing social faux pas, coming of age dilemmas that resonate with audiences. Their core, these comedies were about characters trying to navigate life's absurdities, much like their viewers, whether it was the man-child like Billy Madison trying to prove himself, or a group of friends getting into ridiculous situations. These stories were universal, even when their humour wasn't. So why should these comedies make a comeback? Because laughter is timeless. The kind of pure, unfiltered joy these films brought is hard to find in modern cinema. I mean, let's use Thor: Love and Thunder.
Known as Axel. He's a singer from a popular band I heard on Earth.
GNR. Astrid, your father gave you a very tough Viking name, and I intend to honor his wishes.
Fight for those who can't fight good.
Comedy.
You know, it would have been it's not really a great film. I tell a lie. It could have been a great superhero film, but of
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Of course, if you add too much comedy into a film like that, it saturates what the story should have been about, and it completely ruins what could have been and should have been a very good film. I mean, of course, lastly, there are issues with social media. You see, today's audiences are accustomed to bite-sized, quick humour from TikTok or YouTube.
No, I'm very sorry
Instagram.
that you didn't get the message.
Me too. To keep their attention.
But I get it.
Rapid-fire meme culture.
I dig it.
Challenging filmmakers to so that's not all to say it's lost. I mean, we've still had some stand-up comedies in recent years. I mean, look at The Nice Guys or bloody comedy of Jojo Rabbit.
Adolf? I don't think I can do this.
Was? Of course you can.
Heil Hitler!
Heil Hitler!
Ooh, that's it, you got it. Heil Hitler, have a great day. Heil Hitler, you're gonna be the best. Heil Hitler, you can do it. Heil Hitler!
I mean, it had emotional depth, but it was a hilarious, funny film set in the backdrop with Nazis. The question still remains, will we ever see the return to the irreverent, carefree comedies of the 90s and early 2000s? As the film industry continues to change, there's a chance that the filmmakers will tap back into that spirit. After all, nostalgia is so powerful. Many reboots and sequels dominating the industry. While dramatic films and superhero blockbusters have their place, comedy is essential in offering an escape for the people that struggle with everyday life. And trust me, in today's modern world, we are struggling every single day. You see, these films, they bring people together. Rewatching Old School or The 40-Year-Old Virgin or even American Pie films, it's like revisiting an old friend. You're familiar with them, they comfort you, and you're guaranteed to laugh no matter what, no matter how many times you've seen the films. There is also something cathartic about the lack of pretense in these films. They didn't try to be highbrow or overly clever. They just wanted to entertain. And that simplicity is what made them so universally appealing. Today, with so much more pressure on content being more meaningful or to make a statement, we've lost that carefree element of comedy. That brings us to the question, why don't modern comedies seem to hit as hard? One reason is that comedy is becoming more niche in the age of streaming platforms like Netflix or Amazon. There are more targeted comedies that appeal to specific demographics, rather than wide-reaching mainstream hits. Shows like Ted Lasso, for example, are critically acclaimed, but they don't have the broad, slapstick appeal of something like a Dumber and Dumber. Another factor is the increased focus on mixing comedy with other genres. Nowadays, films that are considered comedies are often a blend. You see, in the end, the comedies of the 90s and early 2000s, they weren't just movies, they were cultural landmarks that brought us together in shared laughter. While the world of comedy is constantly changing, the need for laughter remains. Maybe it's time for Hollywood to revisit that golden era of humour. Bring back those unfiltered, outrageous comedies that made us laugh uncontrollably. After all, who couldn't use a good laugh right now? But anyway, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your favourite 90s comedy is. And also let me know what your favourite 2000s comedy is and why. And also, what makes a good comedy for you? And do you reckon we will ever return to this style of humour again? Or has the new woke culture, the way the world is at the moment, how you cannot even make a joke, has that completely tarnished what we used to have? Good old-fashioned, hilarious comedy. But please, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, notification bell for more deep dives into the world of film. Ciao for now.